The trade station was broken, wires hanging like vines, smoke filling the halls. Lights blinked in and out. Alarms screamed from every corner. People were running, yelling, trying to escape the fire that had started after the mining riot. In the middle of it all stood a human man, covered in dust, wearing a torn jacket and holding a blinking scanner. His name was Jack, an engineer sent to fix broken systems. He had seen chaos before, but nothing like this, as he moved through a collapsed tunnel. He heard something, a soft whimper coming from behind a pile of crates. He stepped closer and saw her, a little alien girl, maybe 7 years old in human years, with blue skin and big silver eyes. Her wrists were tied with loose rope and her face was dirty with tears. She didn't speak, just stared at him like a wild animal caught in a trap. Jack raised his hand slowly, his voice calm. "Hey kid, it's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you." She flinched when he stepped closer, but didn't run. He crouched, cut the rope, and reached out his hand. She looked at it, then at him, and finally took it. Her fingers were cold and shaking. He led her through fire and smoke, dodging falling beams and broken floors. At one point, the ceiling cracked and a beam crashed down behind them. She screamed, clung to him, and he held her tight. "It's okay, Starlet. We're almost out," he said, giving her a name since she wouldn't tell him her own. She looked up at him with wide eyes, surprised he gave her a name. No one had ever done that before. They reached a safe hallway where rescue lights glowed faintly. Jack sat down, catching his breath, and gave her a protein bar. She took it slowly, like she didn't know what food was. He smiled, brushed dust off her hair, and said jokingly, "You know, when you grow up, I'll marry you." Her eyes lit up, and she smiled for the first time. "You promise?" she asked in a whisper. "Sure," Jack chuckled. "I promise." It was just a joke, a silly thing to make her feel safe. He never thought she'd remember. Soon, rescue teams arrived and pulled them apart. She was taken by alien medics, he by human officers. They didn't even let him say goodbye. She reached for him as they carried her away. He raised his hand and smiled. "Be brave, Starlet," he whispered, and then she was gone. Years passed. And Jack forgot the girl. He moved from job to job, fixing ships. Working in deep space zones, he told the story, sometimes a strange tale of a little alien girl and a wild mining riot. But he never thought he'd see her again. After all, she was just a scared kid in a broken world. But far across the stars, in a place Jack would never imagine, that little girl grew into a warrior. She never forgot the man who saved her, who gave her a name, and most of all, she never forgot the promise made under alien stars. Now she was coming, and nothing, not war, not space, not time could stop her. Part 2. A Visitor in the Storm. Ready to write whenever you say, start Part 2. Let me know if you also want YouTube SEO description image prompts for this part. Voiceover version with commas for natural pauses, just say the word. The wind outside howled like a beast. Thunder shook the small metal cabin sitting on the edge of the dry planet. Rain fell in heavy sheets, turning the ground into mud. Jack sat inside, warming his hands by the heater. The years had made him older, tougher, tired. He was now a maintenance officer at a border outpost, far from busy star routes. He lived alone, just him and silence. And he liked it that way. No noise, no people, no trouble, until that night. A knock came, sharp and heavy. Once, then again, louder. Jack froze, his eyes moving to the door. No one ever came here, not in storms like this. He grabbed his tool gun and stepped toward the door slowly. Another knock. Jack opened the door. Squinting through the rain, a figure stood there, cloaked in black, soaked and silent. Water dripped from her cloak, her boots, her hair. She looked straight at him, eyes glowing faintly under the hood. She spoke just one line, her voice calm and strong. "You made a promise, and I've come for it." Jack stared at her, confused. "What?" he said, keeping the tool gun low, but ready. She slowly removed the hood. Silver eyes stared back at him, eyes he had seen once long ago. Her face was older now, sharp and beautiful, but her expression was the same. It was her, the little alien girl he called Starlet. Jack stepped back, shocked. "You, how that was years ago?" She nodded slowly. "I remember everything," she said. Stepping inside, she placed a sealed metal case on the table. The box gave off a soft humming sound, like something ancient slept inside it. Jack closed the door and stared at her as she took off her wet cloak. Underneath, she wore strange armor with glowing lines. Not military, not bounty hunter, but something royal. He noticed small scars on her arms and a blade she carried like it was part of her. She opened the case, revealing a crystal shaped like a teardrop floating in blue light. "This is the bond token," she said. "It was given to me by my people's elder. It activates only when the one who made the promise stands near it." The crystal began to glow warmer as Jack stepped closer. He laughed nervously. "Hold on, Starlet. That was a joke." "I didn't think you called me Starlet," she said softly, her lips curling slightly. "No one else ever did." Jack ran a hand through his hair, trying to understand. "You mean? All this time, you kept this promise?" She nodded again. "I trained for years, became strong. Survived the trials of my world. All because I believed you'd remember." Before Jack could speak again, a loud blast shook the walls. A red light blinked on the cabin's screen proximity alert. Jack ran to the console, pulled up the camera feed. A ship hovered nearby, silent and black, no ID codes. "They found me," she whispered, standing tall. "Who?" Jack asked, confused. "The ones who want to erase the old ways," she replied. "They tracked me here." Jack looked at her, the fear in her eyes hidden behind strength. "What do they want?" "To stop this bond," she said, motioning to the crystal. "To keep our kinds from ever joining." The power flickered, then went out. Only the crystal still glowed, casting soft blue light across her face. Jack stepped closer, his voice low. "Well then, I guess we've got trouble." She looked at him and smiled for the first time. "Yes," she said, "but this time, I won't let them take you outside." The storm grew stronger. Inside, the bond between two hearts grew even brighter. The small cabin shook again as thunder rumbled across the sky. The lights were still out, the backup generator struggling. Jack moved carefully, checking the windows. Outside, shadows moved in the rain figures that didn't blink or speak. They stood like statues, watching the cabin, waiting. Starlet stood near the table, the bond token still glowing in front of her. Her hand rested gently on the crystal, as if it gave her strength. Jack came back from the door, his face tense. "We're surrounded," he said. "Who are they?" She looked up, her voice steady. "They are the silencers. Trained to erase forbidden connections, connections like ours." Jack frowned. "We're not even connected," he said. Trying to laugh, it was a joke, but the words felt hollow. She stepped forward and placed something in his hand. A silver badge with a strange symbol, half human, half alien, locked together. "This," she said, "was created generations ago by those who believed in unity. My people thought the bond was just a myth until I showed them your name, my name." Jack blinked. She nodded. "It was recorded by the rescue team you spoke to after saving me. You used your ID to help me. That ID became sacred." Jack looked at the badge again. His hands shook slightly. All these years he had no idea that one act of kindness had echoed so far. But still, he couldn't believe this was real. "Starlet." "I'm just an engineer," he whispered. "I don't belong in this." This legend. She moved closer, her silver eyes watching him. "You saved a child who had nothing," she said. "You gave her a name, a promise, and hope. Even if you forgot, I never did." A sudden crack outside broke the moment. One of the silencers stepped forward. A long weapon in his hands, Jack pulled Starlet down as the cabin wall exploded inward. Debris flew, Smoke filled the room, and the bond token fell to the floor. Starlet grabbed it fast and pulled Jack into the side room. They crouched behind a metal cabinet. "We can't fight them," Jack whispered. "We don't have to," she said, her voice calm. "I have something they fear." She pressed a hidden button on her wrist guard. The bond token glowed brighter, and a small hologram appeared. It showed an ancient council of alien elders. They were speaking in a language Jack couldn't understand, but one word stood out. "Human," repeated several times, "with respect, with warning. These are the prophecy records," she explained. "They speak of a human who would bond with a royal daughter and bring change no empire could stop." Jack stared at the floating image. "You're royal." She nodded, slowly. "The last of my line," she said. "And now the last hope for peace." The wall behind them shook again. A silencer entered, eyes locked on them, weapon raised. Jack stood quickly, putting himself in front of her. "Don't move," the enemy said coldly. Starlet stepped beside Jack, holding the bond token high. "Touch him," she warned. "And your line ends here." The silencer paused, staring at the token. He slowly lowered his weapon, then turned and left. Others outside followed him into the storm. The attack had stopped. Jack let out a long breath that actually worked. Starlet smiled slightly. "The prophecy protects us now, but not for long." She looked at him with soft eyes. "You still think it was a joke?" Jack was quiet. "I don't know anymore," he said. "But I know this: if they're going to keep coming, I need to understand what I'm part of." She nodded, holding out her hand. "Then come with me," she whispered. "Let me show you what your promise has awakened." Jack took her hand, and for the first time, he didn't feel alone outside. The storm faded into silence, but in the shadows, others were already planning their next move. The ship rattled as it broke through the planet's atmosphere. Smoke from the earlier fight still clung to Jack's jacket. He sat in the cockpit, staring ahead, hands gripping the controls. Beside him, Starlet was quiet, her silver eyes fixed on the stars. They didn't speak for a while. Only the hum of the engine filled the silence. Jack finally glanced at her. "Where are we going?" "Far," she replied softly. "To a place where they can't follow. At least, not right away." Behind them, the silencer's black ship had already taken off again. They were being hunted. Jack looked at the scanner. 3 blinking red dots were closing in fast. 3 ships, he muttered. "And they're gaining." Starlet pressed a code into the dashboard. A hidden hyperjump engine activated. Blue lights wrapped the hull, but before they could jump, the enemy fired. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew. And the right wing lost power. "We can't outrun them like this," Jack said. Trying to stabilize the ship, Starlet stood up, eyes glowing brighter. "We don't need to run. We need to disappear." She pressed her hand to a glowing panel, and the ship shifted. Suddenly, the scanner went blank. The ship became invisible, hidden by old tech known only to her people. For now, they were safe, but Jack knew it wouldn't last. They drifted through the cold silence of deep space. Jack opened a ration pack and passed half to her. She didn't eat it, just stared at it. "I haven't had human food since that day," she whispered. Jack smiled a little. "I still remember how you held that protein bar like treasure." She smiled back, but there was sadness in her eyes. "I grew up in a palace filled with gold, but nothing tasted better than that moment." He wanted to say something, but didn't know what. Instead, he checked the ship's systems. "Damage on the lower wing, no weapons left, and we've got to jumps at best." She nodded. "We can't keep running forever." Jack looked at her. "Why do they fear this bond so much?" Starlet opened a hidden drawer, pulling out an ancient data cube. She pressed it, and an image flickered to life, an old war, showing alien and human soldiers fighting side by side. The image changed, showing the first Bondan alien woman and a human man holding hands in front of thousands. "The last time it happened," she explained, "it nearly ended the war between our people. But peace didn't bring prophets or leaders, destroyed all records and hunted anyone who believed. Jack leaned back, trying to process it all. So you think this bond can change everything again? She looked at him, serious. I don't think, she said. I know, suddenly. The scanner beeped again. 3 ships had found them, despite the cloaking. Impossible, Starlet said. Eyes narrowing, they must have marked your DNA during the last fight. Before Jack could reply, a message crackled through the comms. Human craft, power down and surrender. Jack raised his eyebrows. Well, they're polite at least. He looked at Starlet. What now? She reached into her belt and pulled out 2 rings, one glowing blue, the other red. These are the real bond seals, she said. If we activate them, they'll know we completed the vow. They'll either leave us alone, or they'll bring war. Jack took the red ring, stared at it. Do you believe we're meant for this? She nodded slowly. Since the day you called me Starlet, outside, the enemy ships began charging weapons. Jack slid the ring onto his finger. Then let's give them something to remember. Starlet did the same. The rings pulsed, releasing a wave of light through space. The enemy ships froze mid-fire, systems confused by the sudden signal. Then, from far across the stars, another signal responded. Hundreds of small blue lights appeared on the scanner ships from Starlet's people and even human allies who still remembered the old stories. They heard us, she said, eyes shining. They're coming. Jack leaned back in his seat and grinned. Guess I'm part of something big now? She looked at him with warmth. You always were. The ship landed on a dry red moon where time seemed to sleep. Dust swirled in the thin air, and the sky had no stars. Only one ancient temple stood there, carved from stone, older than memory. Jack stepped out first, boots crunching on the cracked ground. Behind him, Starlet followed, holding the bond token in both hands. This place, she said softly, was hidden for centuries. Jack looked around, confused. Looks like no one's been here in years. Starlet nodded. That's the point. They walked toward the entrance, stone doors etched with strange symbols. When Starlet placed the token in the center symbol, the doors rumbled open. Inside, warm lights lit the path as if welcoming them. And at the end of the long hall stood someone waiting, an old alien with silver robes and a missing eye. The old one bowed slowly. You've come, he said, his voice dry like sand. Starlet bowed in return. Elder Maru, she said, this is the human. Jack raised a hand awkwardly. Hi. The elder stared at him for a long moment, then said, you carry a forgotten fire. Jack blinked. Okay, that's dramatic. Maru turned and motioned for them to follow. This way, he said. There are things the girl does not know. They entered a smaller chamber with a round table and 4 glowing orbs. Maru waved his hand, and images floated above the past. Seen in light and memory, a younger version of Maru stood among other elders. Arguing, we must not allow the bond, one shouted. It weakens the line, another added. Only Maru defended it, saying, love is not weakness. The image changed an alien princess and a human man fleeing through fire. They held hands tightly, wearing rings like Jack's and Starlet's. But in the next image, they were betrayed, captured, and separated forever. Jack watched, eyes wide. What happened to them? They were erased, Maru said quietly, by their own people and their child. He paused. Looking at Starlet was hidden. Starlet's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Maru stepped closer. You were born from that bond child, he said. You are their blood. She froze, her voice cracking. That's not possible. My records say I was royal born, raised in the high tower. Half-truths, Maru replied. They raised you as a symbol of power, but feared your true history. Jack stared at her, stunned. You mean? The whole reason she believes in the bond, because it already lives in her. Maru nodded. Yes, and now it lives in you too. Starlet sat down slowly, her hands trembling. All this time, I thought I was leading a new path, but I was just following an old one. Jack stepped beside her. "Maybe that's okay," he said. "Maybe some paths deserve to be walked again." Before she could answer, the temple shook. A deep rumble echoed from above. "Ships," Jack said. Checking his scanner, "big ones." Maru closed his eye. "They found this place," he said. "It's no longer safe." He gave Starlet a second token, dark red with a golden center. "This is the blood key," he said. "It proves your lineage. Use it to awaken the old guard." "What's the old guard?" Jack asked. Maru's lips curled into a faint smile. "You'll know when you need them." They rushed back to the ship. Engines already warming. Jack took the pilot's seat while Starlet held the blood key close to her chest. "She's scared," he thought, watching her face, but she didn't show it. Instead, she stared at the sky like a queen born for storms. As they lifted off, black ships swarmed the red moon. Laser fire began to rain down. Jack pushed the engine to full power. Starlet turned to him and said, "I'm not just a believer anymore. I'm the proof." He nodded. Gripping the controls, "And I'm with you." The ship soared into the stars. Past fire and shadow, behind them. The temple collapsed, secrets buried again, but not lost. They were no longer just hunted lovers. They were history, returning with a heartbeat. And soon, the galaxy would hear it loud and clear. Jack's ship limped through cold space, smoke leaking from the engine bay. Warning lights blinked red and metal panels sparked. They had barely escaped the red moon, but Starlet's hands never trembled. She sat beside him, holding the blood key tightly, her eyes locked forward. "They'll come again," Jack said, wiping sweat from his brow. "They always do," she replied. He looked at her, tired but curious. "What exactly is this old guard we're flying toward?" She didn't answer at first, then said, "They were protectors of peace, guardians of the bond. When the bond was banned, they vanished, but the blood key can call them back." Jack frowned. "And they'll listen to you." Starlet nodded once. "They have to," she said. "I carry their last queen's blood." The ship's fuel dropped fast. Jack knew they wouldn't reach the next planet unless they landed soon. He found a nearby asteroid field with an old mining station. It was abandoned, rusty, quiet, perfect for hiding. They landed inside a docking tunnel. Jack stepped out, his boots echoing across the metal floor. "I'll fix the reactor," he said. "Buy us some time." Starlet placed the blood key inside her chest armor and followed him. But something felt off. The air was still, too still. Then a voice boomed across the dark hangar. "You ran far, little star." Jack froze, turning to see a tall figure walk from the shadows. A commander of the silencers, dressed in dark armor, his face hidden. Dozens of soldiers followed him, surrounding them in silence. Jack stepped in front of Starlet. No weapon, no plan, just instinct. "She's done nothing wrong," he said. "She carries a disease," the commander hissed. "A dream that should have died with the last bond." Starlet raised her head proudly. "Then why are you so afraid of it?" The commander raised his hand, and soldiers aimed their weapons. Jack knew this was it. He couldn't fight them all, but he had to try. He pulled a wrench from his belt and threw it at a gas line. It sparked, exploded, and smoke filled the hangar. "Run!" Jack shouted, grabbing Starlet's hand. They ducked through service tunnels, slipping past soldiers blinded by the smoke, but they couldn't hide forever. In a narrow hallway, Jack turned to face her. "We can't keep running," he said. "We need to end this." Starlet placed the blood key into a control panel hidden in the wall. Old symbols glowed. The floor trembled. Behind the wall, a sealed chamber opened. Inside were battle suits, 6 of them, covered in dust but still alive with power. "The old guard," she whispered. Their energy lit up the hall. Holograms appeared around them, spirits of ancient protectors. They looked at Starlet and bowed their heads. "We answer the call." One said, "Is your heart ready?" She nodded, stepping into one of the suits. Jack hesitated, but then the spirit turned to him. "And you, human will, you stand beside her." Jack took a breath, looked at Starlet. then stepped forward. "I will," he said. He entered the armor. It was like sliding into thunder. Strength rushed through his body, his fear melted into fire. The door burst open, silencers poured in, but the old guard rose like giants. With silent power, they defended the bond once more. Blades hummed, shields formed, and the battle lit the station like a dying star. Jack fought with focus, every move guided by the armor's memory. Starlet moved like wind and flame, graceful yet deadly. Side by side, they held the line. Then, with a burst of energy from her heart, she released the full power of the blood key. A wave of light knocked the silencers back. Their weapons froze, their suits cracked. And the commander fell to one knee. "It's real," he gasped. "The bond is still alive." Jack stood over him, armor glowing. "Tell your leaders," he said. "We're not running anymore." The surviving silencers fled. Their mission failed. As silence returned, the armor faded. The suits powering down. Jack and Starlet stood in the smoke, breathing hard, but smiling for the first time. They weren't just symbols of a story. They were the story.